The Economic Investigator. Presence.
Once, our entire lives were written on fragile strips of plastic.
We locked our most precious memories inside these little yellow boxes.
But what happens when the company that sold us memories becomes a memory itself?
I am Hayder Al-Hasani. Welcome to the headquarters of truth. I don't just analyze markets. I am a forensic detective at the crime scene of dead empires. I dig through the ashes to find the single spark that burned the kingdom down.
We decode the DNA of failure so you don't have to repeat it.
Today, we open the file on the strangest suicide in corporate history.
A giant that held the patent for the future, but chose to bury it alive. They invented the very weapon that would eventually kill them.
They were terrified that the future would devour their past profits.
This isn't a murder mystery. It's a tragedy of fear.
From the labs of Rochester to the cold floor of bankruptcy court, this is the autopsy of Kodak.
I am Hayder Al-Hasani. This file is the autopsy of a corporate suicide.
We aren't dissecting a startup. We are dissecting the giant that taught the world how to see.
It began in Rochester, a city where chemistry was forged into magic. Kodak wasn't a brand, it was a monopoly. They didn't just sell film, they owned the Kodak moment. For a century, every human memory was filtered through their lens.
Absolute domination. At their peak, they held 90% of the American soul.
But history is a cruel teacher. When you own the world, you stop looking at the horizon.
They felt invincible. In reality, they were already ghosts. 1975. Steve Sasson walks into the boardroom carrying a strange, heavy machine.
The world's first digital camera. A toaster-sized device that captured light without a single drop of ink.
The response wasn't wonder, it was panic. They asked, who would ever want to watch their life on a television?
They were junkies for their own business model. Give away the camera, sell the poison.
Faced with evolution, they chose protectionism, the most expensive ego trip in history.
But the future cannot be caged. Sony and Canon didn't ask for permission.
The world pivoted. Instant results. Zero cost. The chemical age was over.
Kodak stayed the course. They called digital photography a fad that would blow over.
The giant began to stumble. But the killing blow was already in motion.
The disruptor wasn't a camera. It was the phone in your pocket.
Sharing the moment became more vital than printing it. Kodak was no longer invited.
In 2012, the company that birthed the digital age filed for bankruptcy.
The ultimate irony? That same year, Facebook bought a 13-man startup called Instagram for $1 billion.
Protecting your past at the cost of your future is a death sentence.
They didn't fail to innovate. They were simply terrified of their own creation.
They built a fortress on film, while the world moved to the cloud.
The weapon was in their hands. The motive was fear. The verdict? Self-inflicted.
The evidence was undeniable. They held the weapon. They saw the target. Yet, they refused to pull the trigger.
To decode this corporate suicide, we must dissect the brutal logic of the razor and blade economy.
For a century, Kodak didn't just sell film. They owned a chemical mint that printed billions, frame by frame. But digital sensors don't eat film. They eat memory cards. And that reality terrified them.
They ran the numbers. Digital was a parasite that would kill their profits. So, they chose to kill the future instead.
This is cannibalization fear, the fatal instinct to starve your successor to protect your ghost.
The market is a predator. If you refuse to eat your own business, a competitor will gladly do it for you.
They were suffering from corporate myopia. Short-sighted giants who forgot how to look past the next quarter.
They thought they were in the chemical business. They forgot they were in the business of preserving memories.
When memories migrated from paper to pixels, Kodak was left clutching a mountain of useless, expensive paper.
Their own infrastructure became their cage. The factories built for film were now the walls of their tomb.
They treated digital as a hobby, a side project, while the world was rebuilding its entire foundation.
They had a 20-year head start. They could have been the architects of the iPhone. They could have been Instagram.
Instead, they spent 2 decades lobbying to keep the sun from rising. A war against the inevitable.
The result? Not a sudden explosion, but a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 digital cuts.
The forensic analysis is complete. But the ledger of history is still open for interpretation.
I ask you, was this a failure of intelligence? Or was it simply a failure of courage? Could they have survived if they had burned their own ships in 1990? Could they have led the revolution?
Imagine a world where Kodak bought Instagram before Facebook even existed. Imagine that empire.
The verdict belongs to you. You are the jury in this trial of a fallen giant.
If you were the CEO, would you have the nerve to kill your golden goose to save your future?
Submit your analysis in the comments. Let the debate begin. I'm reading every word.
The most brilliant insight will be the centerpiece of our next economic investigation.
On this channel, we don't just observe the wreckage of history.
We dissect the past to engineer a smarter, more resilient future.
I am Hayder Al-Hasani. This is the Economic Investigator. Remember, the numbers may change, but the market never lies.
Until the next file. Case closed.